Let's start. 242, Chapter 2 Number Analysis. On opening day, Isabel arrives at the cafe very early with nervous anticipation. Isabel. She looks around the cafe, but she can't shake off the feeling that something is missing. As she sets out cups, spoons, and plates, Isabel's doubts grow. Isabel. She looks around, trying to imagine what else she could do to make the cafe perfect, but nothing comes to mind. Then, in a sudden burst of inspiration, Isabel grabs her paintbrush and transforms the blank walls into landscapes, adding flowers and trees. Isabel. As she paints, her doubts begin to fade. Looking at her handiwork, which is beautifully done, she is certain that the cafe will be a success. Now, success is not exactly guaranteed, she thinks to herself, but I'll definitely get there. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 2 Number 01. My 10-year-old appeared, in desperate need of a quarter. 25. A quarter? What on earth do you need a quarter for? 25. 25. My tone bordered on irritation. I didn't want to be bothered with such a trivial demand. There's a garage sale up the street, and there's something I just gotta have. It only costs a quarter. Please. 25. I placed a quarter in my son's hand. 25. Moments later, a little voice said, "Here, Mommy, this is for you." I glanced down at the hands of my little son and saw a 4-inch cream-colored statue of two small children hugging one another. 4. Inscribed at their feet were words that read, "It starts with L, ends with E, and in between are O and V. LEOV. As I watched him race back to the garage sale, I smiled with a heart full of happiness. That 25-cent garage sale purchase brought me a lot of joy. 25. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 2 Number 02. Esther stood up as soon as she heard the hum of a hover engine outside. Esther. Mail, she shouted and ran down the third set of stairs and swung open the door. It was pouring now, but she ran out into the rain. She was facing the mailbox. There was a single, unopened letter inside. She was sure this must be what she was eagerly waiting for. Without hesitation, she tore open the envelope. She pulled out the paper and unfolded it. The letter said, "Thank you for applying to our company. We would like to invite you to our internship program. We look forward to seeing you soon." She jumped up and down and looked down at the letter again. She couldn't wait to tell this news to her family. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 2 Number 03. Dan and I were supposed to make a presentation that day. Dan. Right after the class started, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Dan saying, "I can't make it on time. There's been a car accident on the road." Dan. I almost fainted. What should I do? Dan didn't show up before our turn, and soon I was standing in front of the whole class. Dan. I managed to finish my portion, and my mind went blank for a few seconds, wondering what to do. Hold yourself together. I quickly came to my senses and worked through Dan's part of the presentation as best as I could. Dan. After a few moments, I finished the entire presentation on my own. Only then did the tension vanish. I could see our professor's beaming face. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 2 Number 04. There was no choice next morning but to turn in my private reminiscence of Belleville. 2 days passed before Mr. Flegel returned the graded papers, and he returned everyone's but mine. Flegel. I was anxiously expecting for a command to report to Mr. Flegel immediately after school for discipline when I saw him lift my paper from his desk and rap for the class's attention. Flegel. Now, boys, he said, I want to read you an essay. This is titled The Art of Eating Spaghetti. And he started to read my words. He was reading my words out loud to the entire class. What's more, the entire class was listening attentively. Then somebody laughed, then the entire class was laughing, and not in contempt and ridicule, but with open-hearted enjoyment. I did my best to avoid showing pleasure, but what I was feeling was pure ecstasy at this startling demonstration that my words had the power to make people laugh. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 2 Number 05. I walked up to the little dark brown door and knocked. Nobody answered. I pushed on the door carefully. When the door swung open with a rusty creak, a man was standing in a back corner of the room. My hands flew over my mouth as I started to scream. He was just standing there, watching me. As my heart continued to race, I saw that he had also put his hands over his mouth. Wait a minute. It was a mirror. I took a deep breath and walked past a table to the old mirror that stood in the back of the room. I felt my heartbeat returning to normal, and calmly looked at my reflection in the mirror. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 2 Number 06. Hours later, when my back aches from sitting, my hair is styled and dry, and my almost invisible makeup has been applied, Ash tells me it's time to change into my dress. Ash. We've been waiting until the last minute, afraid any refreshments I eat might accidentally fall onto it and stain it. There's only 30 minutes left until the show starts, and the nerves that have been torturing Ash seem to have escaped her, choosing a new victim in me. 30 Ash. My palms are sweating, and I have butterflies in my stomach. Nearly all the models are ready, some of them already dressed in their 19th century costumes. 19. Ash tightens my corset. Ash. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 2 Number 07. One Friday afternoon, Ted was called to the Vice President of Human Resources. Ted. Ted sat down, beaming in anticipation. Ted. Today was the big day, and this meeting would mark a turning point in his career. Ted felt sure that it was for his promotion and that the Vice President would make him the marketing manager. Ted. Ted, there is no easy way to say this. Ted. Ted suddenly realized this meeting wasn't going to be as he expected. Ted. Ted's mind went blank. Ted. The Vice President continued, Ted, I know you've desperately wanted this promotion, but we decided Mike is more suitable. Ted, Mike. Ted just sat there, frozen. Ted. He felt as if he had been hit by a truck. Don't panic. All he was able to do was repeat that sentence over and over to himself. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 2 Number 08. Dave sat up on his surfboard and looked around. Dave. He was the last person in the water that afternoon. Suddenly something out toward the horizon caught his eye and his heart froze. It was every Safa's worst nightmare, the fin of a shark. And it was no more than 20 meters away. 20. He turned his board toward the beach and started kicking his way to the shore. Shivering, he gripped his board tighter and kicked harder. I'm going to be okay, he thought to himself. I need to let go of the fear. 5 minutes of terror that felt like a lifetime passed before he was on dry land again. 5. Dave sat on the beach and caught his breath. Dave. His mind was at ease. He was safe. He let out a contented sigh as the sun started setting behind the waves. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 2 Number 09. It was a day I was due to give a presentation at work, not something I'd do often. As I stood up to begin, I froze. A chilly pins and needles feeling crept over me, starting in my hands. Time seemed to stand still as I struggled to start speaking, and I felt a pressure around my throat, as though my voice was trapped and couldn't come out. Gazing around at the blur of faces, I realized they were all waiting for me to begin, but by now I knew I couldn't continue. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 2 Number 10. Ryan, an 11-year-old boy, ran home as fast as he could. 11 Ryan. Finally, summer break had started. When he entered the house, his mom was standing in front of the refrigerator, waiting for him. She told him to pack his bags. Ryan's heart soared like a balloon. Ryan. Pack for what? Are we going to Disneyland? He couldn't remember the last time his parents had taken him on a vacation. His eyes beamed. You're spending the summer with Uncle Tim and Aunt Gina. Tim Gina. Ryan groaned. Ryan. The whole summer. Yes, the whole summer. The anticipation he had felt disappeared in a flash. For 3 whole miserable weeks, he would be on his aunt and uncle's farm. 3. He sighed. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 2 Number 11. Megan looked up and saw angry grey clouds rolling across the water. Meghan. The storm had turned and was coming her way. She stood up and reached for her sandals. That's when she spotted the dog splashing around in the middle of the lake. At first she thought he was playing. She watched for a second or two, then realized the dog wasn't playing. 1, 2. He was trying to keep from going under. With her heart pounding like a trip hammer, she ran into the water and started swimming toward the dog. Before she got to the dog, the rain started. She saw the dog, and seconds later he was gone. She pushed forward frantically, her arms reaching out in long strokes, her legs kicking harder and faster. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 2 Number 12. It was time for the results of the speech contest. I was still skeptical whether I would win a prize or not. My hands were trembling due to the anxiety. I thought to myself, did I work hard enough to outperform the other participants? After a long wait, an envelope was handed to the announcer. She tore open the envelope to pull out the winner's name. My hands were now sweating and my heart started pounding really hard and fast. The winner of the speech contest is Josh Brown. The announcer declared. Josh Brown. As I realized my name had been called, I jumped with joy. I can't believe it. I did it. I exclaimed. I felt like I was in heaven. Almost everybody gathered around me and started congratulating me for my victory. MTC. Good job.